Hello there, and welcome to another episode of The Fuck Did I Just Watch? With your host, as always, Kyle McLemore. This week we'll be recapping and reviewing the latest installment of the Creed franchise. That's right, it's Creed 3. Let's get it on! Now, before we get too far along in the review, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button because it definitely helps the show stay alive, and we appreciate it here at Mom's Garage Studios. And if you haven't seen Creed 3 and would still like to, make sure you pause now and return later, as there may be several spoilers up ahead. That's right, this is your official spoiler alert. Now let's get into Creed 3, which has the return of our title character, Adonis Creed, played by Michael B. Jordan, as well as Tessa Thompson returning, and new to the franchise, Jonathan Majors as Damian Anderson. And not only is he starring in the title role of Adonis Creed, but Michael B. Jordan takes a step behind the camera for his directorial debut. And talk about a challenge for your first movie. Not only does he have to star and act in his own film, he also has to direct a movie that centers around boxing. And if you know anything about filmmaking, it's notoriously known that fight scenes are some of the most difficult things to coordinate in movies. Now, before we talk about all the stuff behind the camera, let's talk about what's in front of the camera. Let's talk about some of the acting in the film. If you've seen the other Creed movies, you should be relatively familiar with the cast of this film, as it sees the return of almost the entire original cast. Phylicia Rashad returns and gives a fantastic and very emotional performance. She really knocks it out of the park. We also see the return of Tessa Thompson, whose on-screen relationship with Michael B. Jordan is really fantastic. Every time they're together on screen, they have a real great presence that just pretty much carries over straight from the other two films. They have a really great on-screen relationship that works from start to finish. Tessa Thompson is great in this film, but there is this strange kind of vibe that maybe she's taken sort of like a back seat in this movie. Maybe it's because her character is so much more present in like 1 and 2. She's like dealing with her own career. She's dealing with like her hearing loss. And in 3, it's like, you know, the focus of the story is mostly on Adonis and his new rival. So unfortunately, Tessa Thompson takes a little bit of a back seat. It's less about her development as a character and more about her just kind of like, yeah, you can do it, like just kind of like being the cheerleader in the film, like it, which, I mean, it's not saying that it's bad or that, like, you know, it is really affects the film that much. It just feels a little bit like something was missing. She just feels so much more present in the first 2, and in this one it just feels like she was just kind of like, you know, off to the side a little bit, which is unfortunate because Tessa Thompson is amazing. And as we mentioned before, Jonathan Majors being the newcomer to the Creed franchise and sort of the villain of the film. Not only is Jonathan Majors having a banger of a 2023, coming off of just doing Loki, and we got more Loki on the way, just coming out of Ant-Man, and now he's shooting into Creed. Jonathan Majors is all over the place in 2023, and he's killing it in Creed 3. Jonathan Majors is doing a fantastic job of playing the villain of the film, which is probably my favorite type of villain, which is more of kind of like a anti-hero, sort of misunderstood or misguided kind of villain who's not really, at the end of the day, not really at the foundation of his core like a bad person, just kind of, you know, misdirected or misguided. Now let's talk about some of the cinematography in the film. As we mentioned before, it's Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut. That's right, it's his first time sitting in that big old director's chair, and what a challenge it must have been for his first film. It's gotta be a heck of a challenge to not only jump in front of the camera and try to give a great performance, but then also jump behind the camera and try to direct everything that's going on. And added on top of that is trying to direct something like a boxing fight scene, which is like notoriously known to be insanely difficult. But Michael B. Jordan does the impossible because he pulls it all off perfectly. And not only is each fight beautifully choreographed and really shot well, they are also hyper stylized. Like, this is the first time I have ever seen a boxing movie with this type of like hyper stylized fighting. Not only are all the fights hyper stylized, but they're done in a way where it's not repetitive. Like, they're all kind of unique. Each one has like something different that's like also interesting and visually stunning. Like, it's not just slow motion punch after slow motion punch. Like, there's also like weird angles, and like it turns and like it shows you this, and then there's a fight at the big climactic fight. There's a whole entire scene where the crowd and everything just vanishes, and like they're just like this ultra hyper stylized fighting with like, you know, the whole background is changing. It is visually stunning. Like, at first there was like a second where I was like, oh, this is like, I'm not into this, but it's only because it's something I hadn't seen before, so it was like unfamiliar and kind of strange. But after like 3 seconds I was like, oh, this is the shit. Now, I'm sure most will notice that this is the first time Sylvester Stallone doesn't make an appearance. Neither does Carl Weathers, actually. They actually don't even like mention Apollo, like hardly at all, which does feel a little bit weird to be like in this Creed Rocky universe without Creed or Rocky. But also sort of made sense because the story is more focused on Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors, and the entire movie takes place in LA, so it's like, all right, no East Coast, Rocky's probably chilling in Jersey or whatever, so yeah, the presence is not there, but also made sense, I guess. Like, it's not really vital for either of them to show up. So let's hit Creed 3 with our overall rating. Creed 3 has a great story. They do a really good job of the back and forth, present and past, and kind of like slowly introducing like what happened before and like where we are now. They do a really good job storytelling. It's really, really great. Also, great performances all throughout the film. From start to finish, everybody's bringing their A game and knocking it out of the park. Everyone involved giving fantastic performances, and the story itself has a really great balance between edge of your seat action fighting and also really delivers on some heavy emotional scenes. And we are giving a huge salute to Michael B. Jordan for hitting a grand slam out of the park on his first up to bat. Not only does he deliver on like the emotional storytelling side of the film, he also brings us some of the most interesting and stylized fight scenes I've ever seen. Like, it was really entertaining. Creed 3 not only delivers on all of its punches, but Michael B. Jordan also proves himself to be the man to watch, and I am very excited to see all of his upcoming projects. So we're gonna hit Creed 3 with a B+. Not a ton that can be said negatively about this film. There is just that tiny little spice of just something missing with the lack of Sylvester Stallone, but overall this film was great and I highly recommend. If you felt differently about Creed 3, make sure you comment down below, and if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Definitely helps the show stay alive, and we appreciate it here at Mom's Garage Studios. I am your host, as always, Kyle McLemore, and we'll see you next time at the movies.